Welcome back in. This segment of the Sports Source is brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. Carpenter bees, mosquitoes, don't get me started there, termites, spiders, ants, they are all a nuisance, but you can clear them from your home or patio with a single phone call. Call Southeast Termite and Pest Control. So I mentioned a bit of a run, bit of an understatement in the third round when Hendon Hooker went to Detroit. Just a few picks later, going with the 10th pick of the third round, 73rd overall, Jalin Hyatt, wide receiver, to the New York Giants. They made a big jump this past season. They brought in Brian Daboll as a head coach, had a lot of success. Daniel Jones improved. They had Saquon Barkley back, one of the best playmakers in the league. Vince, the Giants were rumored to be looking at Jalin Hyatt in the first round. Yeah. They get him 2 rounds later, and I'm sure Jalin would have preferred them to take him in the first round. But what do you think of the landing spot, ending up there in New York with the Giants?
Yeah, and you get the team gets a 5th year too in that initial deal, so they get that 5th year option. So you get more money potentially, but the team gets to find out more about you. Then again, some players look at it as, hey, then I'm going to have to ask for a new contract before that 5th year if they want to put me in an option. But as far as team fit, the Giants needed speed, right? What's crazy is that was the narrative. They actually have a guy who was just injured, and that's Wan'Dale Robinson from Kentucky. So that's going to be, I think, Jalin Hyatt's initial competition at that slot in being the speed vertical guy. So they also added Paris Campbell, Jamison Crowder. They had Hodgins that had a good season. So they bulked up that position some. So it's not going to – he's immediately going to walk in and be the vertical threat. He's going to have to work for it. But, man, he is so confident. And he said he's putting on some more weight, even more than he did at Tennessee. You saw him put in the work. I think it's a really good spot for him. He's already been in contact with Daniel Jones. He's going to do some off-season workouts and stuff. So you like to see that. He was, I think it's a good spot for them because of the need position, especially.
It's a good spot. He gets to learn too. Like I said, third round is not expected to start. Yeah. You can start. You're not so far down the depth chart that they don't trust you to go, hey, if he shows a flash, we'll put you in front of somebody. But in general, what they're looking at for him is, hey, let's get him into the rotation early in the season. What they really hope is by the end of the season, you've taken over the spot and become the guy. So I think they'll be looking for him from that, but they're expecting him to learn. The one thing tough about New York is just New York. And you got the media. You said the Bears media was tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants, so if you drop a ball, just be ready. You're going to hear
it's the headline the next day.
Exactly. It's going to be – so you got to learn to have a thick skin early on. But at the same time, it's a great place to be. You just got to keep your head on straight because it is New York. But keep your head on straight, keep going, and learn from those other guys.
The thing with that, he's in his initial press conference, he was talking about he thinks he's the best player and the best wide receiver in the draft, that he's dynamic and explosive. He's very confident, and that played out well, and he backed it up at Tennessee. But when you put that out there in the National Football League with that media, now people are going to throw that back at you when you have a drop or you're not able to break into the lineup. So that's a consideration. And one other thing, Wan'Dale Robinson was a second-round pick. So they have something invested in him, too. It's not like it was wide open. So we'll see how that competition plays out.
Bob, if we're talking about fit and what he does at the next level, how Hyatt might have to change, I think he's going to one of the better offensive coaches in the league. I would put as much trust in Brian Daboll as any.
He may be going to one of the top 3 offensive coaches in the league, so I think that's going to help him. I think that Hyatt might have been hurt a little bit by 2021 season. Because if you remember, he came out, dropped some balls, ended up not playing that much. I forget his stats from 2021. And then he has the great 2022 season, obviously, by winning the Blitnikoff Award. So my question is, I wonder if some teams thought, okay, who am I really getting? Am I getting the guy who was a little bit shaky in 2021, or am I getting the guy who was the Blitnikoff Award winner? And so I think it's good, once again, that he's going into a place where there is competition, because I think it really helped him last year, the fact that towards the end of the 21 season, he was kind of being an afterthought a little bit. Nobody was still saying, oh, man, he's our main guy. You had Tillman, and you had other receivers.
Yeah, Velus Jones, who was in the slot.
Yeah. So it was kind of like Hyde had sort of fallen into the mist of just, okay, good backup guys. So I think the competition will help him, and I think the fact that you are going to one of the best offensive coaches in the NFL will really help him. Yeah. And a quarterback who was kind of reborn last year. Daniel Jones was sort of considered a bit of a bust. Didn't look like too much of a bust over most of last season.
Bob, I thought that more so, if NFL teams do their work, they know he put in the work to get better. Yeah. And when you see that progression, I think that answers that. That shouldn't be hard for NFL teams. I think the tougher thing for Jalin Hyatt, why he might have slipped, is because some don't know if he has all the route tree, if he can play all the positions. And, well, he has the speed, but in the NFL, sometimes you need guys that can make something out of nothing, and he really didn't show necessarily that after the catch at Tennessee.
Yeah, he just showed the ability to catch the ball. I mean, speed and run away from people, and that's not going to happen as much in the NFL. It's tighter windows. Can you make a guy miss?
Right.
And that's what never really showed up on tape. Not that he can't, but you don't see all these dynamic plays where he's making two guys miss and shaking another guy.
Look at Alabama. He kept being wide open.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
And so that's
we're going to hold that against you. Gosh, you're just too dang open.
That's exactly. But I mean, that's what they're looking at and going, and they just suspect, the NFL is going to go, well, you're not going to be that open in the NFL.
Right.
And so they just look at that, and I think that's why they looked at other wide receivers that had some of that tape where they showed putting their foot in the ground and making a guy miss. That's a guy that they're going to say, I'm more likely to see that guy translate. And they're just going to put a higher stock in that. So they haven't seen that from him. That's why he also dropped.
He also didn't show a lot of getting off of man press coverage. Cedric Tillman had more of that on tape, which we'll get to.
When we come back, Cedric Tillman. There was debate, speaking of, who goes first, Hyatt or Tillman? The debate couldn't have been closer once the draft happened. We'll tell you where Cedric Tillman went and look at how he fits in when we come back right here on The Sports Source.